Hey everyone, and welcome to Inconspicuous Influencers. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This month I'm going to be catching up with Andre Anderson. Andre's going to tell us a few interesting facts about himself.
My pet peeve will probably have to be not when someone doesn't have a goal, but when someone just has no intention to find out what their goal is.
One of the things that I've come to realise as I've gotten older, as I've grown up, and as I've kind of been exposed to different life experiences, is that everybody has a story. Like, everyone has a story, but at the same time it seems that a lot of us, and myself included, often underestimate the power of our stories, or we belittle our stories, and so in the process we end up shying away or passing up opportunities to share those stories with other people. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's important to share our stories with others?
At the end of the day, stories is what changes the world. Hollywood is probably one of the biggest driving forces on the planet, simply because of its method of storytelling. And the reason why we love certain adverts is because of the stories, and the reason why we can relate to certain people is because you can see what they've gone through, and that's one of the things that kind of defines who we are, and that's kind of things that people talk about long after we're gone, about who we are and what we had to go through.
How would you say that we can use it to influence the world around us, or how we could?
The reason why we love stories, and the reason why we could connect to stories all over the world, is because everybody goes through the same thing. And I think that once you be able to be transparent amongst your friends and your family and say, listen, this is what I'm going through, or this is what I've gone through, then you in a sense liberate people.
So what gave you the courage to start sharing your stories?
I mean, I felt that every time I was to speak about who I am or where I come from, people always come back up to me, so I'm really encouraged by it. And it's not like I have a dramatic life, but because you're able to be honest and transparent, people appreciate that. Yeah. So
I mean, inspired you to keep doing it.
Exactly.
In the first instance, what triggered that boldness? Because, like I said before, a lot of people lack the courage, or a lot of people, like I said, belittle. So what kind of triggered that confidence, and where did you muster it up from to be able to be like, you know what, I have something to share which I know it can help someone else, it can empower them.
I've had many mentors that have told me their personal stories and have opened up to me, and by the end of the meeting, or by whenever we finish speaking, I always feel liberated at the end of it. And my culture or my circle is always about being open, and that's what I've kind of been born under. So it's not really a thing where I had a moment and I just wanted to share my business with everybody. But I'm not really a person to speak about my problems all the time. I'd rather hide it in a poem, or I'd rather use a story to illustrate what I'm feeling.
Not everyone necessarily has the courage to be able to do that. Some people are very closed, or they find it difficult to share what they're going through, especially if it's something that is quite personal to them. What would you say to anyone who's kind of struggling with having the confidence to be able to do that? What would you say to encourage them that what you're going through is worth sharing because it can help someone else?
There's always going to be the fear of you don't want to share because you don't know how people's going to perceive you after you say it.
How they're going to react to it.
Exactly. And I mean, if you have something to say and you really want to say it but you don't want anybody to know, then the most safest thing you could do is write or do whatever you want to express yourself, but under a pseudo. So you do it under another name, so people doesn't know it's you.
And people can still connect with that. The transparency.
People still connect with it regardless, and you'll still feel uplifted for the fact that you let something off your chest. There's nothing much you can lose.
It's about going for it, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just about going for it, and maybe just kind of letting go of all those inhibitions, and those things that kind of restrict you or that make you think twice about it. Just put those to one side and be like, it's not really about me right now.
Exactly.
It's about whoever's going to read this, whoever's going to watch this, whoever's going to come into contact with whatever format you decide to produce your story in.
Because you overcame it.
Yeah, exactly.
You overcame it. If you haven't overcome it, then you're able to share it and people's able to help you. And if you have overcome it, then you're able to help someone else. And obviously we've gone under a certain mentality to say that every man for themselves and we just help out ourselves. But the idea of telling stories, or the idea of creating something, is to bless yourself in a sense, but it's to bless other people.
And that's why stories are so powerful. That's why they're such a great way to influence people. In a sentence, what does being influential mean to you?
Influential is to invest as much as yourself into the people around you.
When you think about our generation, what is it that you love about it? What is it that you admire about it? And also when you think about our generation, what is it that you would like to change or you would like to see changed?
Okay, I think the one beautiful, like, it's so beautiful, the fact that everything right now is ground level. So if you want to be a teacher or teach millions of people in your bedroom, you can. If you want to like produce an album and sell millions, if you're good enough,
self-sufficiency.
Everything's ground level. I love the fact that we're do-it-yourself generation. We could do whatever we want, and no one can't tell us no. One of the things that I do wish we can like work on is working on our potential, and because there's a lot of potential there, but there's not a lot of working towards it. Because obviously now we're in a time where everybody just like releases things quickly. Like, I'm gonna have a mixtape next week.
What do you think about that culture of, just trying to get something out there, push it out and promote? And
it's twofold. It's twofold, because then it's good to just do it and get into the idea of working on something straight away, but then there's some things where you need to actually take time on, and obviously
and invest that effort, time, money, whatever it is,
exactly,
to make sure that it's not just a certain standard or level, but it's the right time. I think sometimes it becomes almost like a competition to see who can just release or produce something, and it's like, if I don't have something with my name on it, it means that
you're in danger of having artworks that have no substance to
behind
it.
them,
because these things take time. Like, there's many times when I think that, if I could just release something in the next 2 months, it'll be fine, but some things take years to create. And even though it may take like a 2 minutes for the person to digest, like, it wouldn't have been as effective if you didn't put that time in.
I don't want to kind of like alienate or ostracize people who aren't necessarily creatives. Like, how can they extract something from what we've just talked about?
I mean, everyone needs to be doing something. Everyone needs to be doing something, whether it's a craft, or whether you're working on a career, or whether you just want to be a good mother or father or son. It takes practice. You're never the best at anything straight away, and that's the thing that we need to be working on, figuring out what we're good at or what we are responsible for, and making sure we're the best at that, because then you're contributing to society,
your communities,
the world, everything.
And you're making impact. Really, really liked that answer. I strongly believe that there are a lot of people out there who could be watching today, who might not be watching today, but there are people out there who genuinely want to use the medium of storytelling to make Jesus famous. But there are things stopping them, like whether it's fear, whether it's they're worried that people don't care about their stories, whether it's the fact that they think their story is irrelevant, or maybe they just don't have the guts, the boldness. Like, what kind of action steps, because I'm really big on practical action steps, can you offer to kind of help them break out of that trap? Because it is a trap. Fear is a trap. Lack of self-confidence is a trap. All of those things that kind of prevent people from stepping out and being influential in the ways that God has wired them up to be. What would you say?
I was reading something the other day or yesterday, and they're saying that it's not our, something to do with like, it's not our loss, but it's the fact that we're powerful beyond measure. That's what scares us. And I think in order to get more confidence, is to have a greater relationship with God.
That's where it stems from.
And I mean, like, you need to be reading the word, you need to be making sure that you're strategically reading your word, praying. Sometimes you've got to be fasting, and then
knowing what the word says about you as well. Just knowing what the word says about you.
Exactly, because when you actually read God's word, you realize that, like, you're king, you're a queen.
This is
it says in the Bible that we're joint heirs with Jesus. Like, everything that Jesus gets, we get the same thing. So the level that we're at is actually kind of crazy. When God talks about holiness basically means set apart, but it means like a cut above. You're living on a different level from everybody else. So first of all, you need to figure out who you are and realize who you are.
And know that.
I used to think that all my ideas were mine, but you just have to say, you know what? Before,
they came from.
Exactly. Like, before I do anything, I pray, and I just say, you know what, Lord, I consider all these ideas to be yours. Whatever I write is your idea. I'm just a servant. I just do it.
The vessel.
And when you think about, I don't know how people can be or see their storytelling as inadequate, because when Jesus was telling stories, like 60% of his teaching was stories. Sometimes he didn't even explain the story, he just told the story and walked off. So
and left it with people to linger on. Yeah.
exactly, and that's what changes the world. Imagine like Jesus has one shot to save the world, and he spent most of his time just
Preparing for it.
yeah, and also he spent most of his time just telling stories. Most people would have thought that was a waste of time, but instead of just preaching, he saw a creative way in how to express it.
Earlier this year, or at the beginning of this year, I was just browsing on the TED Talks website, as you do, and I came across an American lady called Hannah Brencher,
Okay.
and she's an amazing, incredibly amazing woman, and she's also the lady behind a movement called More Love Letters, and she said something that really struck a massive chord with me in a recent interview, and I just want to read that to you very quickly. What she said was that we have this tendency to focus on the takeaway, so like being overly concerned with what we can get out of a situation, when in fact we should really be spending more time focusing on the leave behinds.
Yeah.
So how through conversations, how through interactions and exchanges, how we can leave people feeling better, leave people feeling more inspired, leave people feeling uplifted and more hopeful.
Yeah.
And in saying that, I wanted to ask you, what is it that you would like to leave behind, and what kind of impact do you want your life to have?
Yeah, you know what? I think a month ago, I wanted to be the greatest artist of all time. I wanted to be one of the greats, like a London version of Leonardo da Vinci. Just leave my legacy there and I'm fine. But then I've realised that legacy doesn't necessarily count on how much you build yourself, but how much you build of others. So my idea of an ideal successful life is that everyone around me has benefited from my creativity. Everyone around me has benefited from my life. So that when I'm gone, it's not just, oh yeah, he made himself a great artist, but like this, he created something for me. Like, or when he created this thing, I was blessed by it. And that's what I consider to be a successful life. Not to change the world, but to change my world.
How do you know that God is real?
Okay. And well, I personally know God is real because of my personal experiences where I've gone with little effort. Like I know that
It's not down to luck, is it?
it's really not down to luck. God's really helped me out. There's been many times when like the books that I've written has been on such a minor level, like no one really knew about it. But then yet Adidas was able to see it and put me on a billboard for their campaign. Like, that's crazy. And I know that everything I prayed for, it just comes to pass. And I can't literally show you God. I can't say here's God right here, because at the end of it all, God is like he's like diamonds, he's like gold. Everything that's worthwhile, you need to dig for, you need to seek, and you need to try and find him. And he's not just going to go show himself. If he made the sun, you can't stand next to the sun, yet alone the God who made the sun. I know he's God because of what he's done in my personal life.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for your
pleasure.
time, for sharing, for being open, being transparent with us. Can you just tell us how we can like keep up with you, with your books, with anything that you're doing, how we can connect with you online? If you want to find out more, if we'd like to have a conversation with you, if we'd like to learn a few things from you, how can we just like stay tuned?
Yeah, get me on Twitter, Zoom for you, and you can email me if you want, zoom@zoomforyou.co.uk.
I really hope you guys were able to gain something from this month's edition. But yeah, take care and thank you. Bye.